Welcome back to another edition of The Drive at oddschecker.com. I am Geoff Fienberg. With me again is Andy Lack at ADP Lack Sports on Twitter. It is the end of the road. It is the Tour Championship. Andy and I have been breaking it down all season, and we'll be back in a couple weeks' time in Napa, President's Cup, all that fun. But here is East Lake with starting strokes, without starting strokes, sort of choose your poison. But before we get there, friend, tell me about the total renovation at East Lake. Should we still think Rory's going to dominate a place like this? Does the past matter, or is it going to be new for everyone?
Yeah. How we doing, Jeff? It's the Ludwig heartbreak last week. Still sitting there in my stomach. But we move upwards and onwards. I have no doubt in my mind that it's coming soon for him. The future is very, very bright for our man, even in a tough defeat last week. It's the final week of the season. I mean, I think a lot of people, this is a big natural vacation week. Me working the golf calendar, my vacation starts on Thursday, right? Right when they tee off. So I can't say I'm going to be watching a ton of this event, but I will be betting it, as one does, as I do every single week that I build a model and like to hope that I have an edge on one of these things. And you mentioned the renovation. The golf course is going to look completely different this year. I'm super familiar with Andrew Green. I think he's really talented. He did the restoration for my home course.
Yeah.
Um, he has done a phenomenal job with Oak Hill. He has done a phenomenal job with Congressional. He has done a phenomenal job with Inverness. I mean, what Andrew Green does best is he takes these championship golf courses that got Reese Jonesified, and he un-Reese Jonesified them up and restores them to the architect's original intent. So to answer your question, Jeff, it is going to look different. It looks different aesthetically. I don't think the player profile, however, changes a ton. I do think that maybe put a little bit less emphasis in course history, just because Xander's going to show up to that first tee and be like, the fairway's a little narrower here. There's the bunker's a little bit larger here. This green's a little bit bigger. This isn't the East Lake that I used to be able to sleepwalk my way into the top five. I do think that's relevant, but in terms of like the total ball striking test, driving accuracy plus overall approach play, that still holds true here at East Lake, Jeff. And the final thing that I would mention, they tore this golf course up and replaced it in 10 months. Okay. That is not a lot of time to do a restoration. And typically, restorations take a whole lot longer than that. And what happens when you rush a restoration, and we saw it this year with Colonial. I don't know if you remember watching Colonial this year, Jeff, but the greens are really firm when they're brand new, right? Because when new greens are built, they build them super firm, and then you hit a lot of golf balls onto them and they soften up over time. There have been no golf balls hit onto any of these greens. So they are rock hard. They're basically going to play like concrete. And we saw this year at Colonial, which was won at like 7-8 under par. Guys are going to have a really difficult time controlling their irons, particularly out of Bermuda rough. So, I think if anything, Jeffrey, this is just going to place a further increase on ball striking, driving accuracy to play from the fairway, and overall iron play.
If you're a nerd for a lot of like the deeper stuff that Andy just spoke about, obviously check him out at his
I'll do a whole podcast on it.
Inside
Yeah.
Golf podcast. I will say I watched about a 12, 14-minute video the PGA Tour put out on Monday evening, just like going behind the scenes of the year of Andrew Green and the restoration at East Lake. I always sort of love those. I always sort of love those content pieces, as much as I'm not a course junkie. Just seeing how the timeline and how they're able to do it, it did seem a little bit rushed. So I'll give you that, whatever that means. We have the starting strokes, the no starting strokes. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Hopefully, for the tour's sake, it works out how I think it'll work out, and it just sort of becomes a bit of a Xander Scotty duel. for with the actual starting strokes. I'd be shocked if it went a different way. If I was forced to make a bet in the with starting strokes market, I'd probably bet Xander Schauffele in the mid twos. But after hearing you speak on the new course, that's not a bet I was really interested in making, nor was a bet I was going to make. I've kind of just totally disregarded the with starting strokes market, Andy. So do you have anything in that market, or do you want to just go to the without?
Yeah, I mean, I think Scotty, it's the Scotty Scheffler number is good. I just want to throw out there that like anytime you could capitalize on a proverbial buy low on Scotty Scheffler, you should take it. Okay. I know that Scotty didn't play well last week at Castle Pines. I know that Scotty doesn't have as good course history as Xander Schauffele. Scotty Scheffler, I bet him at plus 115. This guy wins 33% of the tournaments that he enters when everybody starts at zero. He's 4-1 in major championships. And now he's starting at 10 under par, where 25 out of the 30 players in the field have more than a 5-shot disadvantage on him. My numbers have Xander and Scotty at 80% combined win probability. My number has has Scotty Scheffler's true odds closer to minus 160. I think if you're a casual, I think Scotty Scheffler plus 115 is just a good number. That's the only thing I would throw out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Most people for it, if that's what I have nothing.
That's
I
a
can't argue
numbers
against
play.
it.
Just a numbers play.
Yeah, no,
Numbers
and
play.
I totally get that. Math actually makes sense when you talk about his winning percentage in starting square against 150 guys. You're probably right.
Plus 4-1 at majors with Brooks Koepka, John Rahm, and 150 other guys.
Yeah, so using
plus 115 at against 30 guys where he's got a 5-stroke advantage on 25 out of 30.
So using that odds checker grid, I see it at plus 115 over at DraftKings, and you're right. I don't think that is an unfair number, all things considered. Like you, I'd probably argue it's probably higher than 80%. That it's just a weekend of those two guys. And I mean, I know there's a lot of us hardos who would like this format to change and maybe find a way to match play. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if the weekend just becomes a match play between those two. A de facto, obviously not whatever we could. I don't really care to debate the format. I don't like it. Hopefully at some point it gets blown up. Let's go to without starting strokes, Andy. Everyone's starting, normal. It's awkward to bet in the sense that I don't like betting things that the players aren't aware of. And yeah, you could say, like, what do you mean? Like, you'll bet in a major, you'll bet like a guy to be top, like, Asian or top Canadian. And okay, yeah, you're right. Like, there are certain props over the course of, like, where you're betting that guys aren't really paying attention, or matchups that they don't have a clue who they're against. But I don't know. In the totality of it, I really don't like it. I don't feel comfortable with it. And with that being said, no surprises. I just bet Tommy Fleetwood at 20-1.
I like it.
Because truth be told, Andy, I didn't know what else to do. And that was really the only result that would make me sad if I wasn't a part of. And it just fits every narrative for Tommy. Like, he'll win an event, low score in a 30-man event that actually means nothing. It'll be the event he finally low scores 72 holes in North America. So that was easy for me at 20-1. And truth be told, over at Bet Rivers, they've got Rory at 14. So I am staring at that. I'm not going to lie. I think he could come alive this week. And I could be tempted maybe for, a Finau, flirting with 30. But I'm going to bet Finau and like one other body. I promise that's all you'll get from me on a card this week. I mean, Fleetwood and one other body.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I don't have a whole lot to add. I mean, I would say I'm more passionate about the opportunity on Scheffler, even though that's not an outright bet. I don't consider it one. I'm certainly not going to victory lap it if Scheffler plus 115 comes.
Hey, you could victory lap it the same way you could victory lap how you're going to call
Eagles
Packers right next week. Like, that's what it is.
Sure,
except
exactly.
That's 3 hours. This is 4 days.
4 days,
but it's still, I know, from betting a golf tournament, it's hard to like get that concept through
Yeah,
your head to wait 4 days for a 115.
sure.
But yeah, I think you make a really good case, Andy. Like a fair case that the number is fair.
By the way, like this isn't an like I think Scotty's gonna beat Xander this week. I like Scotty more than Xander this week. It's not an anti-Xander thing because I think like a lot of people are on Xander this week in the like I just think Xander's going to win because Xander has better course history than Scotty and Xander's playing better than Scotty right now.
and you
I
like the
would
position of the chaser, I
right
think.
now I would say beware of the pendulum that I always talk about, where every time people start saying that Xander is as good as Scotty, Scotty reminds us that Scotty is better at golf still than Xander. There was a lot of Scotty Xander closeness talk after Xander won the Open Championship coming into the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then Scotty did his thing at the Olympics and reminded
Yeah.
everybody of that.
And I would like to say I was firmly, even the day after the Open Championship, was like, I still think Scotty Scheffler is my player of
Me
the
too.
year.
And I just want to
And
say
I don't
also,
think winning this week is more. And I said this sort of in hyping up the Olympics when we did a preview for that or spoke about it. Like, I believe winning that gold medal is way more important than winning this week in terms
right.
of like what's a bigger accomplishment. Obviously, for the wives, this is the week. This is the week for the wives, Andy.
And you know
There's a lot on the
the
line
sixth
here.
generation of Scotty Schefflers, right? We know that John Rahm's grandkids are going to private school. This is where the seventh generation of
Yeah,
Schefflers uh get their tuition paid for. So, you know, but the larger and I was, you know, I talked about this similar thing, you know, when I was I didn't bet him outright, but he was a big DFS staple for me at the Travelers after Scotty played poorly at the U.S. Open. I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Like, hold your horses." The point being is, it's not even an anti-Xander thing. Like, I just happen to like the Scotty number better and this golf course more from Scotty from a number standpoint. But like, I have those two guys making up over 80% of the win probability. You
do you
can
have it?
bet you can bet Xander or Scotty minus 275. I don't have the math on top of my head. That should be minus 400 for me. So like whether you could pick your poison between Scotty and Xander, whatever you want. The point being is, Geoff, they've had this tournament for 5 years. And every single year, and 2 out of the 5 years, the guy starting at minus 10 won. Another year, the guy starting at minus 8 won in Victor Hovland. And the 2 other years, Rory McIlroy won at minus 4 and minus 5. So if you're not, and it took a Herculean effort from one of the greatest players, one of the top 20 players of all time to come back from minus 4 and win. So if you're not starting at minus 4, forget it. Cross off. It ain't happening. And the top two this year is better from a strokes gain standpoint than the top two has ever been at this tournament. So I just my piece of advice, the no starting strokes market, whatever you like. I like Hovland in that market. I like
Yeah.
Sungjae in that market. I like Henley in that market. But if you're betting this to win, um, I think you're reaching if you're not, you know, if you're not betting at least somebody starting at minus 4. And I'd be surprised if it wasn't Xander or Scotty, personally.
Yeah. And I guess I'm happy you brought that up on the way out because I also think Victor makes for a pretty
Yeah.
strong play in the to within the without. He could be the body that I use to accompany um Tommy Fleetwood. I actually saw him enhanced over at Bet Rivers quite high as well. I want to say at 22 to 1. But so just you're not playing that, you're just I mean, I get it. You're gonna go in on that one market. If you had to play the without, you would be looking at Sungjae, Victor, and there was a third name you said there, Russell Henley.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Okay, Andy. I don't got anything else for you. Is Baccia going to make the President's Cup team, do you think?
I hope so. I mean, I haven't dove into it super deep yet. I find myself like maybe not caring as much as I would in a Ryder Cup year because I think that they could pick, you know, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th best option and still beat the internationals pretty handily. Um, I'm kind of in the camp of like get the younger guys some reps.
Yeah.
I think that the way that they should look at this President's Cup, and I don't think this is the way that they look at it, but I think it is the way they should look at it, is like if you think this guy has a real chance to be a part of your Ryder Cup future, then you should you should give him a chance, because whether you pick Jordan Spieth or Akshay, or whether you pick Max Homer or Akshay, you're still going to win. So why not pick the guy and get him some reps that might be crucial for you winning Bethpage?
I agree. I would say historically, the USA has sort of used that final President's Cup spot, I feel, as more of like a lifetime achievement award than sort of
Stupid.
let's get a guy reps who we believe will be part of this program for the next like decade of team golf. But I don't know. I'm looking forward
Stupid.
to it.
That's what like every great international soccer program does. Like they think
And but
about
the
like
thing is,
building
okay,
for.
and the European Ryder Cup team can do that essentially because they don't have the talent at the very back of the roster where they're sort of and I guess even sometimes you'd argue the internationals, but the American team, it's usually so deep, it really doesn't matter. But you're right, it's like a light. I don't know if they use it as a tune-up for the Ryder Cup, but it's super cool that Keegan will be a part of it. I'll be in Montreal for it, so I'll be pretty. And
Yeah.
hopefully it's just good golf, but should be a bit of an ass kicking. I've seen the line like pretty short. You could win yourself a nice new appliance. Like if you need a new washer dryer, you wait a month and you can bet those like 250s, 270s on the Americans. I'm not doing that this time because I'm going to be there, so don't really need that, but is what it is. Andy, always fun talking. I expect you should be cashing your bet this weekend on Scotty Scheffler. Pardon me, kind of be pretty surprised if you didn't. And then we'll be back in a couple weeks in Napa's time. In Napa, I don't even remember the sponsor's name. I saw it this morning. I forget it
It's
now.
like Procore or
Yeah,
something.
Procore. There it is. Will be the Procore in Napa, which should have some good players because it'll be the week before the President's Cup. And we see some of the higher end guys like to go there with their wives for wine country. And nothing else to say. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the Tour Championships. For Andy, I'm Jeff. Thank you, Odds Checker. We
Cheers,
out.
buddy.